Everyone, I'm back with a video today showing a few fun stamps from Fun Stamper's Journey. This one is the Color Me Fall background stamp, and I saw this and I just fell in love. So I already created a card using some watercolors for the backgrounds, and today I want to make another card, sort of a coordinating card, using this Thankful Friends stamps and dies. So my thought with this card is that I could use a few of these leaves that are included in the set and kind of make a fall wreath. So these stamps are rubber and they're cling back, and they come in this sheet of rubber stamp, and you just pop them out, pop out the ones that you want. And I really think this is handy because you can put them right back in place and stick them back to their sheet and put it back into its original package, and you know they won't fall around. So to create my fall wreath, I'm grabbing my Simple Blends, and I wanted to use this just because the circle is perfectly centered for an A2 sized card, and I just wanted a little light template of a circle to follow for my stamping so that I would have a nice circle wreath when I'm done. So I drew that circle on with a pencil, and now I'm just kind of swatching out the inks that I have selected. So I'm using lots of browns, I'm using a purple and a few light yellows. So that first color that I stamped there was maple. This one is macchiato, and I'm trying to get a few different browns in here, a few different yellows, so I have a little bit of a variation. Now this color is plum, which is a really gorgeous dark purple. And I'm trying to wipe off my stamp in between each color so that I don't mix. This next color, Hayride, I don't think I totally cleaned off my stamp, so it's looking a little pink because it had a little bit of purple on it still, but it's really a nice light yellow. And my last color is Suede, which is sort of a yellowish brown. And so after I had those all stamped out, I really liked the way that they fit together, so I thought I'd go ahead and use those. Now I sped up this part of the video because it's a lot of stamping, and I'm just building my wreath. So I'm using some of those colors that I swatched out. I'm using this one leaf here, and I'm first stamping with maple, which is a really gorgeous reddish brown. Now I'm just trying to follow the circle that I drew and just kind of go around and fill in gaps. And I'm not using any particular rhyme or reason here. I'm just kind of trying to build my wreath. So at first it kind of looks a little wonky, but as you get going you can kind of fill in the different gaps and kind of even it out. Now I'm switching to the other leaf on the set, and I'm using, I believe this is Suede, and I'm just kind of stamping those in several different areas. Now when I'm using these inks, I'm not worried about masking or anything. I'm just stamping the leaves right over each other because they go together well. Now these inks, they are permanent when dry, so they're not going to really muddy or blend. I mean, these inks do blend well if you use an ink blending tool, but stamping over each other, they do really great for layering. So I wasn't worried about doing any masking or anything. I just wanted the look of a nice full fall wreath. So I'm switching back and forth between these two leaves. Like I said, just trying to fill in a lot of gaps and make my leaf wreath look full and fallish. I did actually go ahead and grab a few different colors. I'm stamping out Wagon on my swatch chart here, and I didn't want that bright of a red on my wreath. I wanted to keep sort of toned down colors, but I did think about bringing in some other colors. So I think I actually brought in Terracotta, which is a reddish brown, and I liked that one, so I went ahead and I stamped that one out as well. Now you can see my wreath is starting to fill out. I just have a few more gaps here that I'm filling in with that terracotta. I believe I'm grabbing it now. There's my terracotta ink, and I'm just filling in a few of those gaps. So it's really easy to go ahead and stamp out a fall wreath just using a few small stamps. Just draw yourself a circle and then just keep stamping around and filling in gaps until you feel like it looks pretty good. So after I stamped out this wreath, I made sure it was dry with my heat tool. I'm going to be doing a little bit of embossing over it, so I am just going to check and make sure all of my ink is dry. So I rubbed my embossing powder tool over the top, and I'm just going to sprinkle on a little bit of my embossing powder just to see if it sticks. So it did not stick, so I knew that my ink was totally dry. So now I'm just going to grab that last little floral piece from this stamp set. It kind of looks like a little twig, and I'm just going to stamp that around my wreath in a few areas. And I thought this would just be a nice way to kind of get a little bit of that gold shimmer into my card without it being too over the top or obvious. So I'm just going to stamp this in a few areas, kind of try to fill in any gaps that might be left. And I've stamped a few of these branches, and then I embossed them, and then I stamped a few more. Now I'm using my Brutus Monroe embossing ink, which is actually really fabulous because it is oil-based, so it doesn't dry unless you hit it with a heat tool. So it really gives you time to finish your stamping before it dries on you, and then you can emboss it. So I'm grabbing my coffee filter, just dropping it behind my card, and I'm adding my gilded embossing powder, which is a really gorgeous gold. And I'm just sprinkling that on top of all of my stamped images. I'm just trying to tap off the excess. And since I used my anti-static powder, and I made sure this was nice and dry before I went in and stamped on it, my powder is just coming off really clean, and I'm getting a really nice embossed image. So I'm heating up those little twigs here that I embossed, and you can kind of see how that gold is just starting to shine. I really love this powder. I love how shiny it is. So I went ahead and I added some more leaves after this just to kind of fill it in around my wreath, and now I'm stamping out this little fox. I just thought he was so cute, so I used him on both the cards that I created, and I just wanted to stamp him out with, I think I used maple, some of that reddish brown that I used for some of the leaves. So I know it coordinates really well. And when you're using some cling stamps in your MISTI, you do want to pull out that little foam pad from the back of your graph paper. So if you saw me do that just a second ago, I was just pulling out that foam. So I wanted to make sure that I had this fox coordinating with the colors. So like I said, I'm using some maple, some reddish brown, and I'm just going to stamp out this fox. Now on my first card, I stamped out the fox and I embossed him with some copper embossing powder. This time I'm just stamping him out with some ink. And I do think I went ahead and I stamped him out 3 times just to make sure he has a really bold impression. So after I stamped him out and I dried him with my heat tool to make sure all the ink was dry, I grabbed the coordinating dies for this stamp set, and I'm just going to run it through my Platinum 6 and cut him out. Now I am one that really enjoys the coordinating dies. I really like the way it just cuts them out and you have this nice little white border. I know some people love fussy cutting, and if you are someone who loves fussy cutting, I would say go for it, because the images in this set, they're not that terribly crazy to have to fussy cut, but I do just enjoy using dies with my stamps. So the dies you see here from Fun Stamper's Journey, I just thought they were really fun, that they were a bright green, probably a little bit less likely to lose them in your craft room because they're so bright, and I think it's just kind of fun to have different colored dies. So I just taped my die down there, and I'm just running through this fox through my Platinum 6 just to cut him out. Now the dies for this set also cut out that little squirrel. I believe it cuts out a few sentiments, and maybe even the acorn that comes with this stamp set. So I'm using a sentiment here from the stamp set, and I just want to go ahead and stamp it on the inside of my wreath. And for this stamp, I am using the macchiato, and that's a really nice brown, and I'm just going to stamp it right over where I plan to put my fox. So I'm stamping it first on some scratch paper just to make sure I like how it looks, and then I'm going to ink it up again and stamp it right in the middle of my wreath, not in the center, sort of up a little bit, because I know I'm going to kind of have that fox kind of peeking into the wreath. So I want to make sure that this sentiment is right above his head. So making sure I have my stamp all inked up, and then I'm going to go ahead and just stamp it down in my wreath. Now I kind of dropped my block a little bit, and I got a little mark right on my paper, but thankfully I was able to line it up again and stamp it out, and you can't even tell. I'm just holding it down for a few seconds so that ink can soak into the paper and I get a really nice impression, and I love the way it's stamped out. And I love this sentiment as well. So now that I have my sentiment all done and I have my wreath all stamped out, I'm just going to add my little fox here. And before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and adhere this card panel down to my card base. And I'm just using my ATG. Now the base card is some cardstock from Brutus Monroe, and I believe it's the wagon color, I think. But it's a really nice rustic sort of brownish red, and I thought it went really well with the colors on this card. I'm just adding some foam adhesive to the back of my fox so I can pop him up over my wreath, and then I'm going to go ahead and adhere him down. So I really loved working with these stamps. I didn't make a video of my other card where I was watercoloring, but that one was so much fun to stamp out in watercolor, and even if you wanted to use Copics or colored pencils with the other stamp set, that would be fabulous too. So now I'm going to go ahead and embellish my card. I'm just kind of tying a little bow out of some twine, just trying to figure out where I want it to go, and then I'll adhere it down with a little bit of liquid glue. I love the look of this twine with the rest of the fall colors. I just think it really goes well with that rustic look. So I'm just getting a little dot of glue here behind my fox so I can add my little bow on. And then to finish off this card, I'm just adding a drop of glossy accents, and then I'm putting some sequins down. I grabbed a few sequins, a few gold ones, and a few clear ones, and I just really love how they add a little bit of extra shimmer without being too obvious. So I hope you enjoyed this little look of the stamp sets by Fun Stamper's Journey. I enjoyed playing with them, and I have more ideas for these stamps, so maybe I'll make a few more videos in the future. Here are the two cards side by side, and if you like them, please make sure you give a like and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Otherwise, you'll see more links and descriptions at my blog post, and I'll link that down below. So have a great day, and thanks for stopping by. Bye!